Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to St. Lucie Public Schools' third Facebook Live session. We're excited to talk to you today as we have just ended our first week of school for the 2021 school year. So today we're just going to talk about some general topics about health and wellness for our students, as well as some technology tips once again, and then answer questions that you may have. I am pleased to be joined in the studio today with our Deputy Superintendent, Dr. John Prince, as well as our Chief Communications Officer, Lydia Martin. And we also have Sally Vandreet with us in the studio to help if we have technology questions. She is one of our technology specialists. So today we're going to talk to you first about health and wellness. And so Dr. Prince is going to get us started on that topic.
All right, good afternoon, Facebook Live folks. I'm very excited to share some information with you today. It's also my first Facebook Live experience, so I hope this comes out okay. Live television, you never know what's going to happen, Dr. Wild. So I just want to talk about real quick the health and wellness with regards to our universal protocols that we've implemented in our schools. So right now on our website, we have a 72-page handbook that pretty much documents everything that we're doing implementing our safety protocols into schools. This goes through what we're doing in our classrooms. It goes through what we're doing in arrival, dismissal, in our cafeterias, how our kids are eating lunch, how our kids are on the playground, our buses. All the information with regards to how we're planning on keeping our students safe this year is in that handbook. The most important thing that we can remind our kids to do, and I have two kids in the public schools, and they're going back to school. I have a senior at Treasure Coast High School, and I've got a sixth grade student at Palm Point. But my kids are going back to school, so these safety protocols are very personal to me because I want to make sure that we keep our families safe. But the most important thing that our kids can do is, number one, is make sure they're washing their hands often. And the second thing is making sure that they're wearing their masks. Now, we do have a mask requirement, but I can't emphasize that enough, and I also want to thank our families. I visited all of our campuses over the last week, or literally this week, and I was so pleased to see from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade, our students complying and doing the right thing and wearing their masks. And not just the students, but also the teachers modeling that behavior and our administrators as well. Also, I wanted to share one other thing. With regards to if you have any questions about safety or safety protocols, all of this is found on our website, and that is stluciepublicschools.org. You can go there, and the handbook is on the splash page. It's right there. Also, we have frequently asked questions that any question you might have with regards to going back to school or even athletics or buses can be found in those frequently asked questions documents. So the next thing I would like to share is with regards to our safety protocols before you even send your child to school. The most important thing that I do in the morning when I get up, and my son beats me to the punch because he gets up a little earlier than I do, but I do go through those questions with him, and I want to share with you the safety protocol document that we ask all of our parents to share with their children and ask those children questions. And I'd ask them to put that up now. We've sent this home. It's also on our website. But these are the questions you need to ask your child before they go to school. The number one thing that we need to think about keeping our schools safe is to make sure that we don't send our children to school if they're sick, if they're not feeling well. And that goes also to our parents. If you're sick and you're not feeling well, then we want to, for safety purposes, maybe we also keep our children home as well. We never want to expose a large number of children to potential pathogens with regards to sending our kids to school. We're already only in the first week of school, and we've had to take safety precautions to quarantine children that have been exposed to a child who was sick or who had tested positive. So that's something you really need to take seriously in the morning. The next thing I want to hit, and I've already talked about it just briefly, is wearing those masks. We have a mandatory mask order in place for our schools, and that includes all of our employees, all of our children that come to our schools, and all of our events. Even if we have any kind of event that occurs at our school and one of our stadiums, we're going to ask all of our folks to wear masks because the CDC tells us that this is the number one way that we avoid spreading any kind of pathogens is to wear masks. It not only keeps your child safe, but it keeps the children around them safe as well. I'd also like to add more research and science is coming out with regards to what masks are the most effective. Now, we do have a mask order in place, but if your child is wearing what are called buffs or gaiters to school, and those are the sun things that go around, it's a face covering, it's not really designed to be a mask, I would discourage your child from wearing those, because once again, we've seen that they're not as safe as a regular hospital mask or something you can buy at Walgreens or CVC. So I'd also like, at this time, to talk about our quarantine process. We've had a few schools right now that we've had either a student that had tested positive, and in that case, we start mobilizing immediately to identify and work with the health department to look at any child or adult that particular child or adult has been in contact with that is tested positive. Now, at that time, we send letters and notifications home to our parents, our employees, to everybody involved. We're very transparent in this process, because the best way to be successful is, number one, is I know sometimes it can be troubling to have a child that's quarantined for 14 days. I know it puts challenges with our families, but I think the most important thing we want to do as a school is we are coming back to school and we want to keep everybody as safe as possible. So I just want you to understand that if your child is ever impacted by a quarantine, it's to keep them safe, and we always err on the side of caution, and we always confer and go along with the health department's suggestions with what we need to do when we have such cases. Lastly, the principal will always be in communication with you with regards to any notification processes, and I'd like to say, once again, this is as transparent as possible, that as soon as we know and we have a plan in place, which will be within minutes of us finding out, then you will be notified in real time. So the quarantine process with regards to instruction, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Wild, because in case we already know this has already happened in our schools this week, so what happens if that happens to your child and their quarantine?
Dr. Prince is so right that we are first and foremost focused on everyone's health and safety, and then we have to immediately switch and be sure that our students get proper instruction and they don't fall behind during a quarantine period. So there's different types of quarantines, as Dr. Prince was talking about. When he referred to a single student, or let's say there's a bus quarantine situation, there will be single students from various classes impacted by such a quarantine. In that case, the teacher will assign that student work through Canvas. And if you watched Facebook Live last time, we talked about the fact that Canvas is useful to everybody, and it's completely in line with what the teachers are doing in school as well as in My School Online. So students will be assigned work through Canvas, and they will also have a way to communicate with their teacher through Teams. If the entire class or school is impacted, then everyone would immediately switch to My School Online. So all of our teachers have had the same training and they're ready to pivot, and because the curriculum is the same, the students will move to their entire class experience to the online experience. So that we are ready to go with that. Teachers are trained and we have support for them as well. So if it happens 2 months from now, we do a refresher right away so that everybody is ready to go. We also have a protocol in place whereby if it happens during a school day, students would take the computers. If they need a computer, they would be issued one that day, and they would take their consumable materials, any materials they need from school, home with them that day. If it happens maybe over a weekend or too late in the day for that type of distribution, you would be contacted by the school about when to pick up those materials that would be necessary to continue learning during that quarantine period. So we do have all of those protocols well in place. We did have the opportunity to practice them and get everything going, and we do have computers on hand for that purpose. If you have a computer, as we discussed last week, please use your personal computer as long as it has a camera and a microphone. You'll be all set. And I think now we're going to move on to talking a little bit about how do we make sure that we're able to contact you if a quarantine situation comes up at your child's school. And I know Dr. Prince wants to share a few thoughts on that.
Well, Dr. Wild, when I was a principal, I always said, plan for the best and prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Because if, especially as a principal, former principal of a high school, we always had catastrophe right around the corner, but we always expected great things to happen. So I want to say at this time, when we're dealing with the COVID issue, It's so critically important that whenever we have an event arise, and we know they will arise, and they've already arisen this week, it's critically important for us to have the correct contact information for you. In other words, let's say we have a class and we're notified that one of the children who's been out sick for a few days has tested positive. Well, at that point, we may freeze those children in that area and literally freeze their day until we can contact the parents and get those parents to come and pick up those children, because we don't want those children moving around other folks. So we know that's going to happen. That's why it's so critically important for you to make sure you have updated contact information that we can reach you at any time. So once again, I just make sure to confer if you've moved, you've changed phones, you've changed phone numbers, to make sure that information is accurate so that we can contact you if we need to. So at this time, I want to talk a little bit technology tips and updates, and I'm going to turn it over to my partner in crime, Dr. Wild.
Okay, along these lines, if you have already been enrolled in My School Online, you have probably taken advantage of some of the tools and tips that we have online for you. We know people have been using them. Our help desk has been active, taking calls and helping getting people set up. Every household is different. People use different internet browsers, different providers, and so we have to take the time to work with every individual. So those calls can take a while. So if you have called the help desk and you've had to wait a while, we really appreciate your patience. That is the best way to be able to provide the services that our families deserve to get their children online and effectively learning and using our tools. So with that said, we're going to keep those tools and those videos posted all year long for you, and we invite you to use them. But today we want to go over some updates and some common aspects that we have been addressing this week. As you may or may not be aware, some people did have difficulty on Monday especially. We had some lags in Teams, and we had some internet issues that we had to address right away that were just a fluke, just, coincidence. When you least expect it is when something will go wrong, and we did have an issue Monday. Our ITS team immediately got on it. We put some fixes in place. I know we're having a little bit of a lag today in Teams, and we appreciate your patience with that. So let's talk about some ways you can deal with that, and we're preparing our teachers with some backup plans for when internet issues arise. So with that said, let's talk about some common login issues. We did issue 2 different types of laptops, and for those of you that received the laptops that have the St. Lucie Public Schools logo etched in it, we are discovering that users often confuse the / with the /, and that is causing some issues. So for laptops requiring the SLPS student login, the / that is used is above the enter key. It is not the key with the question mark on it. So if you have an etched computer and you need these directions, go back to this presentation and look at what this slide says, and that will help you through it. Initially, we had some people struggling with the box laptops, but that seems to have been resolved. And if you do have any need for setting up your box laptop, please give a quick call to the help desk and they'll walk you right through that. Canvas is our curriculum tool that everybody is using. So a couple things to keep in mind with Canvas. First and foremost is any schedule change. Even if you change a class in your regular school schedule, any changes in Skyward will take up to 24 hours to show up in Canvas. So that is run nightly. So if you did have a change, say today, do not expect to see that course in Canvas the next day. It takes 24-hour rotation period. Canvas is reached through your browser. Microsoft Edge works really well with Canvas, we are finding, and there is not a standalone app in the computer for Canvas. You just reach it within your browser. Most Canvas issues are easy to solve, and you can work those out by contacting your teacher directly. Also, we want to make sure everyone is aware that there is a Canvas app that you can download on your phone, as well as a Teams app. And so this slide shows you what those 2 apps actually look like in your phone. And we are encouraging students to download these apps, whether they are in traditional face-to-face school or online instruction, because that can help you. Your teachers are using those devices, and if your internet goes down, you do have that backup. Let's talk about Teams for a minute. Teams, of course, is where you come together with your teacher for your live instruction. It does work well in Microsoft Edge as well, that browser. Start with visiting your homepage and click on your student webmail. If you click on your student webmail at the very top, you'll see Teams, and it can be found in the waffle. The app launcher with the 9 dots in the upper left-hand corner. So if you're having trouble finding Teams, please follow those directions. If you work in Teams in the browser, if it's troublesome for you, you can then switch to the app, which that might be helpful, and access this by clicking the purple people icon in the taskbar at the bottom of the screen, or located in the Windows menu. So this is another way to access Teams on your computer. I'm not talking about the app on your phone at this point. This is in your computer, and I do find this very helpful. It works better for me. You'll find you have fewer issues when you access it that way. Also, if students are missing classes on their team dashboard, and it has been at least that 24-hour turnaround, please reach out to your teacher and they can manually add you to the class. There's an automatic process for connecting a class to Teams, but if it did not work for any reason, you can contact your teacher and they will fix that. And just a reminder, parents and students, if you're on My School or if you're quarantined and switching to My School, attendance is taken daily in Teams. So be sure that you participate and that you join the call on time for whenever the teacher directs you to. I would suggest you get online 5 minutes beforehand just to make sure you don't have any glitches as you're trying to log on. And you should check your calendar in Teams because your teacher has created those meetings for you to join your class. Okay, let's move on to Dr. Prince, and we'll go back to technology and response to questions.
All right, so thanks, Dr. Wild. So one of the challenges that we're having right now is parents and families changing their minds. Some My School families, they saw a day or two of frustration, and it's like they call the school and they're like, okay, I want to send my kids back to traditional because this is too hard for me. Or maybe a parent gets worried because we've had a quarantine case at their school and they want to transfer from traditional to My School. So what we're going to do, and let me just explain the why we're doing it. One of the challenges that we have is that whenever we do these changes, they create a huge disruption in our program. And it's not just a disruption in the program, it compromises the safety of the children. And what I mean by that is even on our buses we have seating charts. Even in our classrooms we have seating charts. In our cafeterias we have seating charts. And this is to help the health department with contact tracing. So if we've got hundreds of students across the district changing and switching and going back and forth every day, it compromises the safety of our students. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a pause, a timeout, halt in place. Initially, we had a deadline in July, mid-July, for parents to make their decisions. We knew it was such a trying time for our parents that we've been very, very flexible. Unfortunately, that flexibility has almost created a monster because we've got parents literally changing their mind one day and then the very next day they change their mind back. So we're going to freeze all of our changes until the week of September 14th through the 18th. At that time, if your child is currently in My School, we're going to ask them to continue in My School through September 14th through the 18th. And at that time, parents can make a change and change their mind. Same thing for traditional. We're asking our traditional families to continue to go to school traditionally and then open that window up from the 14th to the 18th so that all of our schedule changes can be done at one time so that we can keep the folks at school safe, on the bus safe, and the cafeteria safe, and we can make adjustments at our school centers. I appreciate your patience at this time, and I hope you understand why we need to do what we need to do. But it also may take a few days for us to get those schedules changed. So the bottom line is we are creating a window. We will publicize that. We will put it on our website and send that message out to all of our families. But we just want to make sure that families and parents understand why, when they call, that we have to say, we have to wait a few weeks. So the next thing I want to talk about is some of our parents have challenges with the technology. And, you know, the computer, it's not working. They make sure to follow all of our instructions that are provided with the technology when it's distributed to you. And sometimes, although we have broke-fix locations, I always say, and God bless her, my wife is a teacher. And my wife I'm the computer tech savvy guy in my family, and if there's anything broke, it's usually not broke. It's just I need to log in and do something. So, and honey, I love you. I'm just making a joke. It's true though. But anyway, so we want to make sure that parents are troubleshooting things. First of all, are you connected to Wi-Fi? Because if you're not connected to Wi-Fi, you're not going to be able to connect to anything. So that's the first challenge that we want to overcome to ensure that our families make sure that they're connected to Wi-Fi. The second thing is to make sure that you test, not just our homepage, stluciepublicschools.org, but you go to another site that you might use to make sure that it's not something with our site, that you're able to access other sites. So that's the best way to connect that, test that connectivity. Then what you would want to do is log into your child's email or assist your child in logging into their email so that you're in the system. The Broke Fix locations currently, and it's up on the screen, are Performance-Based Prep Academy, and that's from 8:30 to 11, and also the St. Lucie Public School District's office from 8:30 to 11. We care very dearly for our customer service and providing that support to our families. So please take this opportunity. If you've gone through those troubleshooting issues and you still are frustrated, then you can take your computer to these locations for Broke Fix. The next thing I want to talk about is really very important to our families, especially our My School families, and that's meal pickup. I'd like to share the screen with you with regards to meal pickup and just tell you our locations. So we have zone locations, which are Treasure Coast High, St. Lucie West Centennial, Westgate, and Parkway. That's in the red zone. Our blue zone locations are Port St. Lucie High School, Northport K-8, and Southern Oaks Middle School. And our green zone locations are Fort Pierce Central High School, Westwood, C.A. Moore, Lakewood Park, and Dan McCarty. So the great thing is on Wednesday, we have one day a week where we're doing pickup, and that's for multiple meals. And you receive 5 breakfasts, 5 lunch, and basically this is on our website. So if you go to our website and follow these 3 simple steps, you log in with Family Access, you order your meals, and then you pick up your meals. All the instructions are very, very clear. Some of our families have been challenged with regards to a family doesn't have a car, or they have to have a friend pick up the meals. So as long as in the notes section when you order your meals, if you put that Sally Smith is going to be picking up my meals, and Sally Smith has the student ID number, then Sally will be able to pick up those meals for those families, which really assists and supports our families to make sure that everybody's fed and safe and nobody goes hungry. So that concludes our formal slides. Dr. Wild, I didn't know if you had anything else, and I know we may have some questions. I'd always be happy to take some.
I would just add, we've been talking about some of the challenges with Broke Fix and technology. Please be reminded, if you do call 429-HELP, it is initially answered by our ITS department, and if it requires that more in-depth hand-holding and walking you through the programs, we have some phenomenal technology specialists that can do that with you. They are also teachers themselves. So they do know how to address your very specific questions. Sally, who's here with us today, is one of those individuals. Julia was with us last week on our last Facebook Live. So please take advantage of that service, as well as Dr. Prince talked about how important it is to us that you feel you're getting adequate service. So at this time, I think we'll ask Lydia Martin what kinds of questions we have coming in to answer.
All right, thank you. A question that I've seen multiple times today is, why are there so many students in some of the virtual classes?
Yes, thank you for sharing that question with us, Lydia. You know, at the beginning of every school year, schedules are getting settled and schools are making changes. We do what's called schedule balancing after school starts. All 3 of us here in the studio today are former principals, and so we recall what those first 10 days look like. So you build your schedules based on requests and the needs of students, and then as you see which students need schedule changes, which students show up, change their minds, as Dr. Prince was talking about, you balance your schedule. So we're working through that process right now. The virtual classes in every virtual school are larger than your face-to-face classes. It is the nature of virtual you're able to do that, especially once you become a master at virtual instruction. And Simultaneously, that helps us to keep our class sizes in our traditional school smaller and allows for social distancing and an environment that feels safer during these times. So you will see the virtual classes being larger, and you will see that teams can handle 49 individuals on camera at the same time. So it is possible. However, we are very well aware that right now there are some classes that are larger than we are going to maintain. We will be reducing those classes, and school principals are working through that process right now. And as we do freeze the changing back and forth, that'll allow us to finish that process up. So if you are a teacher with large classes or a parent seeing a lot of students in your child's class, just be patient and you will see those numbers coming down.
All right, thank you. Another question that I'm seeing in multiple formats is comments about people having more success at home with their personal computers rather than the district computer. So what is the advice? Should they continue to use their personal computer and turn the district computer back in so that perhaps someone else that needs it could use it? Or should they try to use and get help with the district computer?
Well, that's an excellent question, Lydia, especially with what you added to it there as you're reading people's comments. If you have a personal computer that you have access to every day and it would not require you to share, we would actually prefer that you utilize that personal computer. That allows us to get that resource back and use it in schools and use it for another family that might need it. So that would be great. So please bring it back, return it if you don't need it. If you are trying to borrow a personal computer from someone else who needs it because of the technology glitches, no. Please keep your district computer. What you are seeing is the difference between going through our network and not going through our network. And right now, with the issue that came up on Monday, which was actually a network appliance that broke, for lack of a better word, that has been replaced, and so now we are working to ensure that it's working properly. Today they were experiencing some issues that primarily affects teams in terms of video quality. You'll see some lagging when that happens. That is a network issue. That is not your computer. However, if you then go to Teams on your personal computer, you won't experience that because you're going around the network. So that's what you're seeing. So the answer is, if you need the district computer, please keep it and allow us to fix that issue. If you don't, please bring it back.
All right, thank you. Looping back to the question about many kids being in some of the virtual classes, and there's been some comments about some people think the reason why is because we don't have enough teachers to go around. Can you address that?
I can,
yeah,
and I'm
go
sure
ahead.
Dr. Prince might want to as well. A parent mentioned that to me yesterday. That is not the case. We do not have more openings than we usually do in a normal school year. I know there were a couple situations. I know of 2 situations where a substitute teacher is covering for the class right now, and they were working to get that substitute in the schedule, and the new teacher has been hired and will start next week. That is no different than we see at the beginning of any school year. We always have a few openings, but we do not have a drastic problem or anything different than a normal year. So I think that is just a misconception or a rumor that's out there. So thank you for the question and giving us the opportunity to clarify.
Absolutely. So going back to the some comments being made about some individuals do have a personal laptop. I think there might be a misunderstanding that we required them to take a district laptop even if they had their own. Can you address that?
Yeah, I think.
Dr. Wild, you're just dominating.
I know, you know how I do that.
But that's fine. I think the most important thing is, you know, we do have limited resources, and we have a limited number of laptops, and we like I said, plan for the best, prepare for the worst. So we have plans in place to make sure that we can supply laptops to our students. However, basically every school district in the state of Florida has a virtual model. So, you know, you've got supply and demand, and all these districts are competing and ordering laptops, and we're fortunate enough to be able to cover that and have enough for our students. But we do want our students that do have their own personal laptops, or families that they do not need a district laptop. If you don't need it, don't use it, so that we can provide those to some other families.
And I can understand why there is that misconception as well.
Yeah.
It sounds like some people heard we were distributing My School laptops and thought maybe that your software would only be accessible on those laptops. They are web-based. You can access them on your personal computer. We do have directions on the website to do that. If you need help with that, again, call 429-HELP. You do not have to use our computer. Because of the shortage nationwide, we are waiting on computers for our kids that are in traditional school, for those students. So we would appreciate you bringing them back if you don't need it, and we can help you access it. If you are in a specialized career technical program, we may need to work with you on your personal computer to see if we can upload or provide you with the software that you need for those classes. But other than that, you shouldn't see any problem at all with using your personal computer.
I liked your answer better.
Okay, thank you. There was another question asked about, are kids being penalized for staying home? And I'm thinking that has to do with students who have selected to do My School Online and/or students who are staying home because they're sick.
I guess I don't understand the question. Penalized for staying home. Nobody's being penalized for going My School. If you're quarantined or under quarantine, nobody's going to be penalized. Nobody's going to be marked absent. You know, we understand this was going to occur. We were very aware. That's why we had plans in place, and that's why Dr. Wild has spent so much time talking about Canvas, so that if parents or students are quarantined and they do go home, they can still follow the curriculum just like they would in a live setting. I hope I answered that question, and maybe if you have anything else.
No, you sure did. As long as they are logging on daily, on time, and if you're in a quarantine situation, as long as you are doing the work, we do have to show that you're in school. You're in school at home. We have to show that. As long as we can indicate that you were participating in your learning during this COVID situation, you will not be penalized with an absence being marked in your record.
Thank you. Another question is, for parents that definitely want to have their kids in My School Online, but maybe they are not able to supervise younger children because they have to work, are there any community programs available that can assist?
Yes, we are fortunate enough to have fantastic community partnerships. This particular one was driven by the Children's Services Council. Sean Boyle was able to work with us and provide grants to many, many community organizations. And they have all agreed and they're on board with making sure that they provide the learning environment that these students need to actively participate in their classes in My School Online. Students need to be on time and participating, so these agencies have provided a learning environment where they can separate the students adequately enough to be able to do different work, because all of the students are not in the same grade level and they don't have the same teachers. So that, and they're providing internet access as well. The student can take their personal or district issued computer to those sites. Boys and Girls Club is one, but there's many, many agencies. So if you just look at the Children's Services Council website, if you are in need of such a service, we're very fortunate to have that.
Okay, thank you so much. And we do have that information posted on our Facebook page as well. There's been a couple of concerns mentioned in the chat about students being marked absent for My School Online, even though they are logging in and attending their classes. What recommendations can you provide to the parents?
Okay, that's a great question. If you are experiencing that, please call your child's school or just talk to the teacher through Teams. Right now, with the issue on Monday that could have happened if the teacher didn't see the student in class, we're working through perfecting that process. Teachers can see when a student comes on live to Teams. Teachers can look at the chats to see who's there. There's different methods that they can use. We're going to add a new method that will make it easier for our teachers to see who's present. But if you were there, there's other ways that teachers can go back now and check and ensure that you were there. So just contact the teacher first and then the attendance clerk at your child's school.
Okay, great. Another question we have is, could you explain how the virtual or My School teachers can work with small groups while they have other students in the class?
Yes, that's a great question. So Many of you didn't participate in my school, the Facebook Live session that we did for my school earlier, or you are now going into my school for the first time. The way this works is that we are not expecting the teacher and the whole class to stay online all day long, or in the case of secondary, even all period long. There are times when students are going to need to log off or just pause and do an independent project or assignment, or take a break, or if it's elementary school, take recess. During those times, the teacher can schedule through Teams an invite for just the students that they need to work with in small group. And that can happen K through 12. And we're encouraging teachers to do that. So they may meet with the whole class first and then pull 3, 4, 8 kids, half the class, together for some continued instruction. And that can be for remediation, reteaching, or even enrichment. We have students who are working ahead and need to be given more challenging work. Teachers can do that in Teams very easily, and you would see that in either your Teams calendar invite or in the announcements for today, where the teacher may even post that schedule indicating who should show up for the small group instruction.
Okay, thank you. Another question, somebody wanted to know, what type of training did we provide to our teachers regarding Teams and Canvas?
Okay, excellent question. We were very fortunate this year, due to circumstances, to have 2 weeks of preschool training. And I probably should back up, because fourth quarter, we did Teams and Canvas training, and it's ongoing. And even prior to the COVID situation, every school had experts on campus who had participated in training over a long period of time. We have several Microsoft certified educators, and more coming on board every day. All of the people answering the phones are certified as well. So with that said, we did training during fourth quarter, and then this year, to start the year, we did more advanced training. The next level of training in Teams and Canvas. We also do individual training with our teachers through bookings with our talent development department, and they can focus specifically on their individualized needs. We take the teacher where they are. If they're an advanced user and they want to know how to become more advanced and use every single tool, or they're just beginning to learn it, we individualize and customize that training as well, and we also can continue to do that as we go through. We are constantly upgrading and adding training. There is more to the virtual learning than just Canvas and Teams. There are features within your Waffle that teachers can use. There's also accessibility tools that our teachers have been trained on. Those are tools to help students who might be struggling learners, or exceptional students, for ESE students, or students that speak other languages. So the training is more than just those two things. There's a lot more than that, and there will be a lot more continuing.
Thank you. Another question is, if a parent has a concern about what's happening with their student with the My School Online, how should they handle that?
Think of My School Online as your child's school and as your child's classroom. So in the same way that you would handle it if your child was going to school, or now for those of you whose children are going to school, whenever you have a concern about anything that's happening in school, whether it's regarding your own child or what's happening in the classroom, discipline, safety, please contact your child's school. And that would either be the assistant principal or the principal if it's something that goes beyond something the teacher can help you with. Also, we encourage you, if your child is going to school, and Dr. Prince may want to add to this, but if your child is going to school and you feel there's any safety concerns or any protocols that are not being followed, we need to know about it immediately. That is the only way that we can make corrections, is if you inform us. So we welcome your feedback. You never need to hesitate about contacting us.
Still some questions about laptops not working. Would, Dr. Prince, if you would go over those locations again for opportunities where parents can bring laptops next week?
All right, so we'll put the screen up one more time. The Broke Fix, they're open from 8:30 to 11. Sorry, I almost extended the day for everybody. From 8, they really love me for that. 8:30 to 11, and it's performance-based prep academy, which is on Delaware and Fort Pierce, and also St. Lucie Public Schools. Our district office is literally right in St. Lucie West. So they're open from 8:30 to 11, and once again, we want to support you and make sure that the devices work. So I would really encourage you, if you're having an issue, to bling. I'm thinking about bling. Bring your devices to those locations during those times.
And also, go to our website, go through the videos that are posted there. Make sure it's not something like the backsplash or the forward slash or something, maybe you were using the directions for the wrong laptop. There's a number of reasons. And you can call 429-HELP as well. The wait is drastically shorter now as we've gotten through a lot of the issues to start the school year. So please call that number as well if you want to take that step before you try the broke fix. But if you've tried it and you're certain, please, that's what they're there for.
Okay, I think we have time for just 2 more questions. The first question is comments by a couple parents that their students who are in elementary grade levels are reporting to their parents they're finished for the day at 12:30. Can you address that?
Okay, again, that is the type of concern that I would ask you to contact your school about. You should not be finished at 12:30. You're supposed to be following the daily schedule. So if that is happening, call the school and find out maybe what might be causing that. Your child generally should have their classes spread out just like they do during the school day. They should also have their resource or elective classes set up. So just contact that school, or if you want to contact us, we can certainly help you solve that issue as well.
Okay, and the last question is specific to teams. At least 2 or 3 people have mentioned about is there a way to disable the whole class chat feature and be able to just message the teacher independently? Some students are finding it distracting.
There actually is a way, and the teacher has control over that. It is, I won't go into how because it's something that the teacher would do, but yes, there is a way that could happen. We'll make sure to send that out to our teachers, and if you are experiencing that, please let your child's teacher know as well.
All right. I think that's all the questions that we have for today.
Okay.
All right, this has been an awesome experience. This is my first Facebook Live. I'm very excited that I survived it. But just a couple of closing comments. I just wanted to thank our families for their patience. I also wanted to thank our families. I said earlier that my children are in our public schools and they went back live. And my wife is also a teacher in our public school system. So, as being an employee of the St. Lucie County Public Schools, the safety of all of our children resonates with me. It's critically important, whether your child is online or whether your child is live, that they have a positive experience with our public schools and also that they're safe. And that's the most important thing, is to keeping our children safe. So I'm glad that we got to spend this time together. Once again, if you have any specific questions, you can always call your school and they can walk you through any issues. We're also available at the district, but I just want to thank you for your time. I'm in it with you as a member of our community, and this wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be. So, Dr. Wild, thank you for being my co-pilot in this little Facebook journey we had.
Yes, it was fun. I would also encourage you, even in the chats today, if there's any other topics you would like us to do Facebook Live sessions on. I know Mr. Jenner, our superintendent, wants us to utilize every method of communication to make sure that we stay in contact with you. So please let us know what you would like us to discuss in future Facebook Live sessions. Thank you for joining us today.